Okay, I am here with the beautiful and delightful Monique DeBose. Hi, Monique.
Hi, Adam.
How you doing over there across the canyon?
I'm doing really well overall. I'm really excited to talk with you. I'm very
I'm
excited.
so happy to talk with you. I've been a huge fan of your singing. You are, first of all, like I've been a you don't know this about me, but when I was a kid, when I was around 12 or 13, my auntie
Uh-huh.
who lived on Carmine Street in New York was a
Uh-huh.
beat, like a real beat from the 50s.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And she died young, sadly,
Uh-huh.
and left me her jazz collection
Uh-huh.
record. If
Nice.
people
Yeah.
remember records. And so I sat in my room with one of those little record players, listening to Ella Fitzgerald, Bessie Smith, like, and just like lusting after these voices. I didn't know who they were.
Lucky
Like these
you.
sexy voices. So I was a weirdo in high school because I wasn't into Bruce Springsteen as much as everybody else was.
Yeah.
Whatever people were listening to, I was listening to jazz and blues. And you are an amazing singer. Like,
Ah.
I won't ask you to sing on the show, but man, I heard you sing last year, and you reached some notes that are so deep and so powerful. It really had an impact on me. So I knew you were a great singer. What I didn't know is you're a great actress. So, look, everybody, I just saw Monique's show here in Los Angeles called Mulatto Math, which I love it because it's like a fuck normal name because nobody uses the word mulatto anymore.
No, no, they don't.
And it's the subtitle is what searching for what was it?
Mulatto math summing up the race equation in America.
Right. It's about race, and we're going to talk about race. Nobody really is interested in race anymore. I mean, it's all been solved since.
Yeah, I think we've all moved past that, right? And
Yes.
that's what we're seeing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of stirring the pot a little. So let's talk about something for a second. So obviously, well, not obviously, I know because I saw the show. You're mixed race, right? Your dad
Yeah.
was African
My
American.
dad's African American, mom's Irish American.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Irish, freckled, super pale American with a really handsome
Bright,
family.
bright red hair.
Right. You showed pictures during the show of her family, and they just look like poster children for Irish. Like put them out in the sun for an hour, and you got French fries, right?
Yes, there you go.
So and you talk about your experience about being mixed race, and we'll talk about the assumptions I think a lot of people have about race,
Yeah.
which after seeing your show, I realized even more how simplistic and unsubtle a lot of ideas are, and there's so much more depth and richness. But let's start with that word. You use the word mulatto math. I mean, I haven't heard that word used since I think Disney films from the 60s. I don't know. That's like the image I have. It's
Oh my
like,
God. I'm like, Disney was using it in the 60s? Wow. No, I don't even know about that. Um,
what,
I,
what, yeah, what does it mean, and why'd you choose it?
so as far as I know, mulatto was a word that was used to describe people who were mixed with one black parent, one white parent.
Okay.
And it is, I talked with my sister about this. It stems from the idea of mule. That
Oh,
might be one of the benefits, or not the benefits, but one of the reasons it's come into existence. And a mule is sterile. And so there were beliefs around these kinds of things that if you mix the races, like you were basically destroying the human race.
that's so wild because, as we all know in Los Angeles and San Francisco, when you mix the races, you get really hot kids. That's
That's
like,
true. Thank you. No.
no, it really is true. It's like the new status symbol, all the mixed races. So there was a belief that it led to sterility,
Mules. I mean, they're sterile.
but I mean, but humans. I mean, obviously it
You
wasn't.
know, when we have racist beliefs or beliefs that help to keep us separate and different, a lot of them are not based in anything that is truthful. Do you know what I'm saying?
There is that, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it came from science.
It came from science. It came from racism. So you use that word. Why did you use the word?
So that's so funny. Somebody asked me recently, and with my shows, I do talkbacks. Oh, and I think you were there that night. That was the
Totally.
night. Yeah,
Totally.
right. And somebody asked me, why would you use that word? It's derogatory, and it's been used in a really derogatory way. And I shared with them, my dad asked me that same question. I chose that word consciously.
Mm-hmm.
One, I love alliteration.
Okay.
But two, it is a word. There's also this concept of the tragic mulatto. Somebody in slave times who was lost and had no idea where they existed because they were in between worlds. They didn't have a place of peace inside themselves, the tragic mulatto. And oftentimes I found myself kind of feeling like I didn't know where I belonged. So to me, that word felt important to use because I'm going right into the spot of the discomfort of it, of us not feeling like we know where we belong. And I don't mean only mixed race people, because there are a lot of mixed race people who feel good and know exactly where they belong. But just us as a nation, I feel like we have no idea what's going on and what sense we're supposed to make of all of who we are together as a unit. So
I totally agree. I have a theory about that, which is that we're in such fucking denial about our history.
Yeah.
That we're you know, any individual who's in denial about who they are is going to be, like you said, just they won't know who they are. They won't have an identity because they haven't integrated their own personal shadow. This is the work I do a lot with individuals and my other, my various businesses and in myself, right? Integrating your shadow, you become a whole person who is in touch with your wholeness.
Right.
Whereas when you repress your shadow, when you repress the stuff that you don't want to look at, as Jung famously said, that which you repress will express.
Yeah.
And our country, I think it's changing, but my impression is we've been in this virtue haze after World War II. We've been in this, we solved everything, blacks and whites fought together. Not quite, by the way, and not fairly, by the way.
Yeah.
But we were the good guys, and the Nazis and Imperial Japan were the bad guys. And that was pretty clear. And we've been in this like denial narcissism, like we're so good. And we're really bad. Like we've done some bad shit. I mean, I remember, just side note here, I remember having a conversation with, when I was at graduate school, with a guy, I had lived and studied in Israel for a couple of years. And he's like, I would never step in Israel. I said, why would you never step in Israel? They took land away. I said, well, there was a country there for 1,000 years called Israel. And where are we standing now? California. Did we take anyone's land away? I mean, people I don't even think know the history. There were extermination squads.
Yeah.
The United States Army sent out the cavalry to exterminate, not round up, not put on reservations, but to murder whole peoples in California. You know about this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so true. I think a lot of us try to sweep our history under the carpet, and I think we've done such a good job of it as a collective that people don't even know the history anymore.
They don't know the history.
So it's not even that sense of like, I know the history and I can't talk about it. It's like, no, there's no history. There's nothing wrong. So you've got two layers of that going on. So with Mulatto Math, my whole intention really, initially, I can talk about why I actually wrote the show, but what I'm seeing, what has grown out of it is this is an opportunity to literally lift the carpet and for us to look at what we've swept under and find out where it all goes. Or if it's time to dispose of it, to actually consciously all of us dispose of it. But yeah.
All right, so let's talk about that. So, here you are, you're a very busy mom of two very rambunctious young boys. So we're friends, so I know your story. And you're this amazing jazz singer. You've performed all over the world.
Yeah.
Why would you jump into this world of one-woman shows here in Los Angeles? And I also want to talk about this afterwards. You would think Los Angeles would be the theater capital of the world. There's so much fucking talent here. You're one of them.
Right.
But like theater is this outlier, but we'll talk about that next. Why did you think you weren't busy enough? Why did you create this show? Like what really led you to do it?
So what really led me to do it was I've always felt like I have stuff to say, but it's not appropriate to say.
Oh.
And I tied that up into race and that kind of stuff. Like, I can't say this because this would be insulting my white side of my family. Or I can't say this because this would be insulting the black side of my family.
Wow.
I looked at things very binary. I do have a math mind. It is binary. I'm like trying to decide if I should just accept that or still keep trying to break through that.
Oh, so you were I should say you were a math major, right, at Berkeley. So
a math major at Berkeley. Yeah. So what had me write this show was my body decided to grow a tumor in my abdominal wall. So at that point, I started dialoguing with the tumor, and I was like, why are you here? What are you here to teach me? What do I need to know? What am I missing? And what I got back was, you cannot not tell your story anymore. It is so important for you to tell your story. And what I didn't know is, I thought it was important for me, just for my own mental health, but I realized it is important for so many people. Like, it's not just my story, which is what I've realized. But that is why I decided to write it.
What do you mean? I'm sorry. What do you mean it's not? I'm sorry to interrupt. I like to interrupt.
Okay.
What do you mean it's not your story only?
Well, from what I've seen from all the audience members and people during talkbacks, is I've heard people say, I'm a white woman and you just told my story.
Wow.
Or African-American woman saying, I have 2 Black parents, but you just told my story. I saw myself in your story. I've had men say that. I mean, people across the gamut. An Irish Catholic, literally from Ireland, lesbian who was 74. She's like, you just told my story. Like, she literally, like, I'm like, how did I tell her story?
Kind of like people between 2 or more worlds?
What I'm realizing is, and this is the other piece I've realized from this show, it isn't all about black and white. It's about identity.
Good.
And how we identify. And the feeling of being an other in whatever context your world is, people identify with that. So really calling out and bringing forward light on this feeling of otherness, this feeling of, I get to choose what I am, or I get to identify how I want to identify. And to me, that is really saying fuck normal. Because it's so easy for people to just put us in boxes. And we just, as humans, that's how I think our brains are set up to do. It's like, oh, you belong in this box. Great. Keep moving. You belong in this box.
It makes the world safe. It's
in theory.
Something I talked about. Yeah. Right. In theory is right. The brain thinks it makes the world safe by categorizing everything. I mentioned to you, and you mentioned the word talkback, so I love that, of course. But after your show, the audience sort of responds, and one of the things I spoke to you about was exactly this: that the brain doesn't like in between states generally because it feels unsafe. And I think I think it was Sartre, I believe, maybe it was Camus. A long time ago I read this, but he wrote an essay on what he called the viscous, right?
Yeah.
Which is like not quite liquid, not quite solid, like slugs and slime on Nickelodeon. Like what there's a fascination with in between states.
Yeah.
And we're fascinated, but we're also a little scared of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at science fiction and monsters and anything that's in between kind of makes the human brain uncomfortable because we can't slot it into boxes.
Yeah. And
of course, the joy of life is the in-between. I mean, that's what makes individual humanity. And I'll say one more thing, and I want to get back to your thing, which is you got me thinking, is that there's so much political noise around what do you call identity politics?
Yeah,
say, I am this one thing, and you're not one thing. You're many things, and once you get into this "I'm one thing," then you have this division that's happening in society that's so destructive. Anyway, I just want to finish that thought.
Well, that's so good, because that is what the show is about too. It's like, I thought I don't fit in one and I don't fit in the other, and something was wrong with me. And then the arc of the story is, no, I don't fit in one and I don't fit in the other, and I get to define who I am. So it's the in-between defining its own category that never has firm boundaries. Quite honestly.
It's true. And so this is a great question, because this is, I think, the question for everyone in the world, certainly my audience. What happened? What went from your show is funny, by the way, I should say. I mean,
oh, good. I'm glad.
And delightful. And you showed how you bounced back and forth between this freckled Irish family and this North Carolina Black family. And so you were kind of bouncing, and you never could figure out which identity was yours. What happened in your life where you said, this is my identity, separate from their identities. I'm me,
That question is still, the jury is still out on that. And what I can say about that is, I've gotten older. Mm-hmm. I've gotten tired of dealing with shit I don't need to be dealing with.
Right.
So there's a maturity there. There's also this piece around, I'm starting to really understand that I have limited time on this earth and this incarnation. So is this how I want to be spending it? Do I want to be spending it in turmoil? Do I want to spend it in feeling left out of? And what am I actually here for?
Right. Like other people's definitions.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That was my Achilles heel for so long. You think I'm supposed to be this? Okay, then I shouldn't be.
Great. I think that's a really central theme to what we're doing here at Fuck Normal, the Bold Life Podcast, which is really to look at, like, how do you live life by your definitions and not by other people's? Now, hang on a second. I'm feeling really rude all of a sudden. You mentioned a tumor before. Are you okay? I feel really bad.
You are a terrible human.
I'm a terrible person, but I'm self-defined as a terrible person. That's the key thing. Nobody else can tell me.
Define yourself, friend.
Are you okay?
Well, it's still present in my body, and yeah, I'm good. I'm okay. That's where we'll leave it. Like, yes, I'm not planning on being dead before my children become adults. So
no, they're too delightful. You definitely want to see what they're going to end up doing.
I can watch them from here or from a different state. That's true. I want to watch them from this state. Yeah.
So. One of the things I really liked about the talk back.
Yeah.
You stayed after the show and you talked to the audience. And man, there were so many interesting stories. Like, again, the norm is like, oh yeah, black and white decision. Two of the people that really I thought were fascinating was this dude who spoke. He's from Germany. Remember him?
Yeah.
He says, ever since I was a kid, people would ask me where I was from, but my parents are both German. I grew up in Germany. And the guy kind of looks black, right? So
yeah. Well, he also was he thought he was half Ukrainian and half German.
Yeah.
Or Swiss. Yeah.
European.
Okay.
Whatever. You're like,
great. Okay.
And then, so he did the genetics test through Ancestry or 21, whatever it's called. And he found out he's like 8 or 9% from Cameroon, Nigeria. Yeah. And like this thing that had been with him you can see he had African features a little bit, but his whole life was German. His parents were German or Ukrainian or whatever. Yeah. And that was so interesting.
That was it. Didn't you notice like how like there was a state of peace inside of him when he like was able to say and claim it? Yeah. I thought that was amazing to me.
Well, you can imagine that all his life he must have been wondering. People have been asking him and this and that kind of thing. I thought that was fascinating. And I think the genetic testing is interesting because people are discovering that they're made up of lots of stuff.
Yep.
And remind me to say something about that. And then the other person who I thought was really interesting was a darker skinned African-American woman in the back. And here you had been saying that you were in all this turmoil, and she was like, hang on a second. Like, we always thought as dark-skinned Black that you had it easy.
Right.
And I think that to me was like, that was the moment when I realized this subject is so much more subtle. It's about individuals. It's not about black and white. It's about everyone has their own story and has their own assumptions about other people's comfort.
Well, here's the thing. One of the women who was with that woman has come twice. She brought people both times because she thinks it's that important and interesting. Nice. She is also mixed race, white mom, black dad, but grew up in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. And she said, I just thought mixed people were the norm. Like that was her whole world. So she grew up with a very different experience than I did. So it's just interesting. It is an individual story, but collectively it becomes our story as a country. Yeah,
it sparks people. It gets people. This is what I like about it. It gets people back to their individuality.
Yeah.
You got me thinking about, my own sort of identity issues growing up and since. So I imagine everyone in the audience is feeling that way.
Adam, that is why I'm so excited about this show. I did not know this was going to be one of the tangible outcomes of this show. It leaves people in conversation. Like people said, we had dinner plans after, but we ended up sitting in the car talking for 4 hours.
Oh yeah, we did. Totally.
And you know what I mean? Like to me, that is amazing. And to me, that is and this is not tooting my own horn, but this is what good art does. It sparks conversation. It sparks us thinking about things in different ways. It has us look at things from a different perspective. And so to me, this show is a great success. Tony nominated ever or not, like it's a great success.
Well, you're just starting. I know you're just starting. I mean, look, here's an insight I had listening to you back in 1987 when I was at graduate school. A friend of mine, when Europe was falling apart, when Poland had really broken away, a friend of mine said, hey, do you want to go to Poland with me? The society's falling apart. We can go buy up all kinds of art and artifacts and things and make a killing. And I was like, well, that sounds like a good idea. Then here's where my identity kicked in. I'm Jewish. I'm highly educated on the history of Jews in Poland and anti-Semitism. And my first impulse was, I don't want to step into that stereotype of a rapacious, money-hungry Jew, right?
Yeah.
And so I said no. Partly because I didn't think it was the right thing to do. But secondly, like my identity kicked in there. Like I don't want to be that stereotype. And what made me think of it in your show is, I think it was you said it. Now it's like blurring.
Yeah.
Somebody said when you go into a store, it was you. When you go into a store, look, I'm the good African American. I'm well dressed, and that's an issue for you walking into stores.
Yeah, that makes me so angry, and I had so much shame around that. That's like part of the piece of me, like not speaking, and even that I realized that was me. I wouldn't speak that out loud because to me that was an embarrassment to my father. Like as a Black person, I shouldn't have this feeling, and my dad would be embarrassed if I had that feeling. But fuck, I had that feeling and it still shows up, and I'm not poor by any means. I could buy whatever I want to buy in a store, yet I still have that consciousness. Yeah.
Totally got it. And I'm so glad you said that. And I even like how you said that now. Like, I don't want to say it because it like reflects, but it's the fucking truth. So let's get the truth out.
Right.
Right. It's where we started. Like, let's get the shadow out so we can actually have a conversation about what's real.
What I've realized, Adam, too, is that my life, I mean, you've heard me talk about this just recently, like on this podcast. I believe we come in to work our soul's work. Like, I don't know how woo-woo we're going to get it with all this, but that's where I live.
We're in California.
To work our soul's work. So I look at it as like sitting in a locker room, getting ready to suit up to come down to earth. And I consciously chose as that soul, a Black dad from his background, a white mom from her background. And I realized like, I am really here to live in that in-between state, and not as a negative, but like, to be able to sit in that discomfort. Like I realized that is one of my gifts and one of the things I'm here to do and shepherd other folks to do. Like, hey, come with me. Let's sit in this discomfort. I can hold a container for you. But let me tell you, it is so hard. Because yesterday I was just complaining to a friend about like that feeling of not really belonging in a certain thing unrelated to race, but that's just part of the work I'm here to do. So that's also a piece of me accepting. It's like, oh, this is just part of what I'm here to do.
Nice. I think everyone on some level beyond race feels they don't belong.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who maybe out there who really feel like they just belong, but everyone I know, I have a comedian friend, Ed Krasnick, who says that California is a refugee camp for people from dysfunctional families. Like if people got along and were happy, it'd be empty. People tend to come here because we're searching. We want to create something. We're drawn to the creativity. We're drawn to the openness.
Manifest destiny. There you go.
Well, I was like that. Manifest identity. Let's say, that's good. We'll call it manifest identity. Like we want to manifest our individual identity. People come here because we feel like we have something to say or something to discover, some gift to give.
Yeah.
And so, but what you've done is you've opened up this conversation about identity, which is so rich because, like, as we talked about earlier, it's not black or white, literally and metaphorically, right? Yeah. But what have you learned? I mean, there are these great talk back sessions when you're done. What have you learned from all these sessions? You've been doing the show for a couple of months now.
Yeah. This is the most interesting piece. I was doing the show probably a couple weeks ago, and it's probably a bad actor moment. But I was literally sitting on part of the set, talking out to the audience, delivering lines, and I could hear myself say to myself, this isn't your story anymore.
Wow.
Like it was powerful. And I was delivering these words, but I was having that conversation inside. So what I've learned is that, life is not binary. And as much as like I've wanted it to be binary for safety purposes, like I needed it to be binary. And say I've got a black dad and a white, like it's binary. That's one of the bigger pieces that I've taken away from it. It's like, it's not binary. I have to like step into that discomfort and own that shit. To me, that's been one of the best things. And one of the other things I've learned is that we always come up with we always have preconceived ideas, no matter how evolved we are. Like they sneak up on us. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I believed that, or I thought that about these people.
Oh yeah.
And so that is, to me, what is so beautiful too. With the talkbacks, I've just been learning like, oh, like I didn't realize that kind of person, quote unquote, thought that, or I'd never thought that this person could identify. So what I've learned is that we really are more similar than we think. And we all know this. We can all say this very easily. Like it's a very mental thing. We're all more similar. We all bleed the same way. But I'm really getting it in a very like real, tangible, like digestible way. I'm seeing it. As opposed to thinking of it as theory, I'm actually experiencing it.
Yeah. Be moving beyond binary, right, wrong, normal, not normal. Totally useless ideas, right? Like create your own shit. Obviously, that's what we're about. You remind me of something, and you know, it's maybe it's part of the artist path, I think, but I think it's the path of anyone who's involved in a path of growth. And I imagine all my listeners are people who really care about growing and evolving. That's what we're here to talk about. There's a fellow named Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've come across him. He's made a lot of noise in the culture. Very interesting guy, very smart guy, very cool guy. Controversial in some circles. But he said something, he's a psychologist, and he said something that really got my attention. He said, speaking truth is curative. Speaking as a psychologist, speaking truth is curative. When you finally speak the truth about the shit you've done, like the thing you said about walking into a store and having to be the good African-American, you know, me being able to speak about my stuff. When you can speak the truth, it loses its grip on you. So when you said that, you had that moment on stage, it's like, wow, this isn't my story anymore. I think maybe it's because you're speaking your truth so eloquently and fully that suddenly what seems so important isn't that important.
Right. And, you know, I'm going to take it to that next level of like the physical curative. I am speaking this truth. Like, this is an experiment, honestly, because doctors were like, you should have surgery immediately. You should be on pharmaceuticals immediately. And everything in my body was saying, I don't think that's it. Like, I think there's more to be done here. Like, this has a purpose versus let's just get it out and never talk about it.
Wow. That's kind of a radical approach.
So it's insane. And I mean, I've got lots of doctors in my life who are like, what are you doing? But so in a sense, it's an experiment about speaking truth is curative. So I'm in that experimental stage, and I guess I'm willing to experiment with my life, but I don't hold it in that way because I don't hold it as this is my only life. It's interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want you to stick around. So
so do I. And there are options and there are things to consider, but I don't think I would have gotten to where I am in terms of curing myself, like mental health, emotional health wise, if I had just said, I'm scared, I need to follow what the doctor says, and I need to go do this immediately and not spend time with it and have conversation and let it birthed this show. It birthed my third album that will come out in the fall. Like, it birthed it.
What's it called? Third album?
Oh, the third album is called The Sovereign One.
What are your first two albums called so people can go get them?
Choose the Experience, Volumes 1 and Volume 2.
Okay, Choose the Experience. Beautiful.
But the Sovereign One you can pre-order now. I'm doing a plug real quick. You can order it now. Just go to MoniqueDeBosemusic.com.
Right.
And I would greatly appreciate it.
It is good music. I've heard you sing live. Is there a reason you didn't include the whole story about your tumor in the show itself since it birthed the show?
No reason that was conscious.
Okay.
No, but I spoke with somebody else and they're like, your next show is going to be Desi and me, like the desmoid tumor and me.
Desi? That's pretty wild. What, you know, like, these are serious issues, but the show it's fun because you go a lot into your childhood self. Yeah. And I know you as an adult and I've never seen you sort of take on your fourth grade self, and it's really delightful for you to go back into that. What's been the most fun thing about this show for you? Because it's a serious subject. We live in serious homes. What's been the most fun part of this for you?
So the first thing that came was the talkbacks, but that's the most satisfying. So let me go to fun. The fun is actually just being able to be in a performance space and actually perform. I mean, every artist enjoys performing. So I've created a performance that not only I could do, but only I could do. And that to me is that's really fun, just to go out on stage. And doing it time and time again, it's becoming more and more fun.
Well, probably because your theater's packed, by the way, which is unusual in Los Angeles. What's up with theater in Los Angeles? I know theater isn't your usual milieu, but...
Right. So you're really asking the wrong person.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, I think we're more a TV. I mean, we obviously are a TV.
Yeah, we're TV culture.
But yeah, I'm happy that the theater's packed. I mean, I've been doing Facebook Lives and like reaching out to people, but it's also been getting good reviews and people have been talking about it. That's been really fun too. People who I don't even know said they've been connecting like, oh, you're going to that show? I'm going to that show. And then they come and tell me how they got to the show, which is really cool. I think it's speaking to something we all need to hear right now.
Yeah, it's true. What, just sort of before we wrap, what do you want people to know, like from doing this experience? Like you said, art is the place where we can actually talk about our shadows, face our shadows, because it's really hard to look at reality sometimes in the face. Like it's really hard to, face the Holocaust without a Schindler's List. It's really hard to face, the history of America with African Americans without 12 Years a Slave. I mean, that was fucking hard, by the way, anyway.
I was pregnant with Ellington when that movie came out. I desperately wanted to see it. And I was also like, I cannot see it while I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
I waited until after he was born to go see that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But narrative, kind of gives a container for us to like take a bite without having to gobble all the shit at once.
Yeah.
What would you like people to come away thinking, feeling, exploring from the show?
Well, I agree with you 100%. Art is a way that we can actually go into things that are scary. And what I want people to take away is people having more conversations like this.
Yeah.
That really is what I want. I want people to actually, one, have conversations, even if it's with, just inside their internal family. But I also want people, the next time they're walking down the street and they see somebody who is quote unquote different than them, to, even if they have that default thought, to be like, oh, wait, I can have a different thought. Or, oh yeah, I remember hearing somebody in that talk back. Or I remember Monique said, like, it's just like, oh, we can disrupt our like default pattern thinking and hopefully move us closer to each other. That's my hope.
Beautiful. And to remove the veil of separation.
Yeah.
That's really, really plaguing us as a species. Suddenly it seems worse than ever. I
don't want to go that far.
No, well, not worse than ever.
I think it's been plaguing us for a long time, but just probably plaguing others more than some.
Yeah, I think it's coming. Yeah, I think basically those of us who have been able to hide out in sort of white privilege culture, it's like, it's time to look at this stuff a little more carefully.
Yeah, I think that's yeah.
I think that's true. Good point. I guess I think also social media has just made everything much more visible. I think
instantaneous too. Yeah, right.
Yeah, the monsters are out.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, like I said, if you don't make, as Jordan Peterson also said, he had a great way of putting it. You got to make a place for the monster at the table, because if you don't, they stay under the table and eat your legs. He didn't say that. Yeah, you got to make a place for the monster because it's part of who we are. So we got to face it down. Monique DeBose. The show is called Mulatto Math. It's in Los Angeles, and let's plug those albums again because I love your music and I think everyone should hear it. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the album is coming out in September. It's called The Sovereign One, but you can pre-order it now, which would be a great benefit to this independent artist. So go to MoniqueDubosemusic.com. Yeah.
MoniqueDubosemusic.com. Monique DuBose, DUBOSE music.
Nope. DEBOSE. That's okay.
DEBOSE. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
Music.com. Yeah. Pre-order that. And obviously, if you're in Los Angeles, see her show. Is it true there's some talk about you taking the show somewhere else? Or is that?
Yeah, it got into a really prestigious festival in New York. So it'll be in New York in the fall in September.
Awesome. So people look out for that.
Yeah, people can do that. And then it's going to be in the Hollywood Fringe Festival June 2nd through June 23rd.
Of 2018. Fantastic.
Yes.
So please look out for that. Monique DeBose. Monique, thank you so much. I wish you health, first of all.
Thank you.
Whether it's speaking your truth or surgery or lots of kale.
Or a combination of all of it.
Or a combination, or Reiki, obviously. That you find health and continued success with your show. I'll see you.
Thanks, Adam. I love this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.